In this episode of the podcast, sensitive information and topics will be discussed. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, interns and associates, and welcome back to the Cubicle podcast. I'm your co-host, JC Moss.
I'm your other co-host, Charlie Armstrong.
And thank you so much for tuning in. Every once in a while, we'll sit down with a guest and talk about all things work-related. To snatching the amazing promotion, to post-grad fear, to work drama, all is said in the Cubicle.
Now today, we're going to talk with our amazing guest, Vanessa Carlson. So a little bit about Vanessa. Today's guest is someone who proves that rejection can be redirection, even when it doesn't feel like it at the time. Vanessa is a New York City-based model originally from Maine, who signed for their first agency at 14 years old. While most of us were figuring out high school and navigating that, she was already navigating castings, call times, and growing up in front of a camera. Modeling became both her creative outlet and her armor, something that she could hold on to when the world felt small or unkind. She started college at Maine College of Art studying fashion design, thinking she'd be the one making the clothes behind the operations. But somewhere between commuting 5 hours for modeling gigs and falling in love with creating, writing, everything shifted. After being rejected twice from FIT, she applied to her rival, the New School, for writing instead. Not only did she get in, she was accepted into the honors program. She graduated in 2023 with a double concentration in creative nonfiction and poetry, and her thesis is now becoming her first book, which is super exciting. Today, we talk about rejection, reinvention, imposter syndrome, confidence, frontal lobe awakenings, and what it really means to grow up in front of the camera, as she is not shy of that, and grow into yourself anyway. So now, please welcome Vanessa Carlson.
Hello, the one and only.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you both so much for having me, first of all.
course.
I'm so excited to be here.
We're so happy to have
First
you.
time on a podcast.
We're so honored.
No, seriously, we are so honored, and we cannot wait to hear your story and how your story is not going to impact our audience. And it truly is a pleasure to have you here. So
Thank you so
wanna
much.
you.
That's so
Yes.
sweet.
Of course. So what we're going to start off with first is you grew up in Maine, and now you're based in New York City, but now you're also in Maine right now currently for your gap year. What is like your plan?
So I would say that it's uncertain. I'm currently going off of vibes, and I am not ashamed to say that. Like, that sounds funny. I'm being so serious. I took a gap year. From last May, I started my gap year. My lease was up. I had a semester of grad school left, maybe a year, but I think it's just a semester. And I was applying to jobs left and right, writing jobs, editing jobs in and around the New York area. You know, I want to be in the city. I moved here in the first place. I chose a school here to be in the city, and nothing was happening for me. So I figured I would focus on modeling, focus on my, I call it the manuscript, but it will be it was the thesis and it will be the book. Focus on that. Move home, save some money, not pay rent, see what happens. I was recently met with my student loans becoming due, so I'm kind of, paying rent in a different format to somebody else for the time being. But I plan to come back to school in the fall, finish up my last semester. Hopefully, like I said, it is just one more semester. And maybe once I have, the MFA with my name on it in my hands, that will have job recruiters, hiring managers look at me a little bit differently. Things may shift. Things are always shifting. But I'm happy to be here for Fashion Week. I'm never going to stop modeling no matter what, whether I'm traditionally employed or not. So we'll just see where things go. That's always kind of how I've been, is just going with the flow, seeing what happens.
Amazing. Do you prefer Maine over New York or vice versa?
No. Oh, my goodness. I am a city girl. I watched The Devil Wears Prada. I think I was 12 or 13. For my 13th birthday, I begged my mom and my grandmother. I'm very close with my grandmother. I actually live with her back home in Maine, to take me to New York because I loved the movie. I loved everything going on in that movie. And they did. They took me. We went in April, even though I have a February birthday, so it'd be warmer to walk around. And I knew I was going to love the city, but I didn't want to leave. We almost had to stay an extra day or two, and I was psyched. My mom was stressed. My grandmother was stressed. I was psyched. We didn't get to stay. We had to go home. But since I left that first time, I couldn't wait to come back. And I wasn't even modeling yet. I was just a kid from, not a city, exposed to the energy here, and I was hooked. So
I feel like that's the thing about the city. There's just a very magnetic connection between so many people in the city. Like, the world is here in a sense of just possibilities
It really
and
is.
opportunities. And you're just filled with so many like motivating individuals. What made you kind of figure out that you're a city girl? Like, what aspect about the city kind of just clicked for you in that aspect?
We took the train from Boston. No, I'm sorry. We took the train from Dedham, Massachusetts, into New York, into Penn Station. And I remember vividly walking up the stairs at Penn Station for the first time and coming out on 8th Avenue. And I was just so overwhelmed. And I was a little scared. I'm not afraid to admit that. I was definitely like, wow, like it's going to be this loud and this many people for the next 3 days or however long my first day was. I think it was 3 days. But I loved it. Like there was just something, like you said, about the energy, about feeling like you're in the center of the universe. And not everybody feels that. My mom, she'll come with me, once in a while when I have to come down for a casting call or a call time. And she can't wait to leave. She's overwhelmed. She's intimidated. She's not a fan of big crowds. So not everybody comes here and has the experience that I did, especially right off the bat. But when you know, you know. I definitely know. Like this is my place.
You knew and you pursued what you wanted to do, and you are still like, and you're heading in a direction where I could just see you in like at least a couple more years now being this like top model and being this like celebrity that everyone's
That's how I
obsessed
feel
with.
right
being
now.
like,
I'm like,
trying.
I feel like
Oh my
we
God, I feel like
have
we
one
do
of
have
the
a
tops
celebrity
here.
here. No,
Gosh, thank
seriously,
you guys.
like America's like next top model. Like watch out, like she's right here. So let's talk about your modeling journey. So you started when you were 14.
I did.
What got you into modeling?
So I have a cousin who I grew up watching her compete in beauty pageants. There's, it's a runway essentially. You walk down in a bikini, you walk down in a evening gown. Some pageants have a talent portion. Everybody comes out. They call it the opening number, and there's like a small, very simple dance routine. Everybody announces where they're from into a microphone. And ever since I was exposed to that, I really wanted to do that. And I did. I tried pageants. They weren't my thing. I feel that I'm more, not to put myself in a box, but I feel like I'm more of an editorial, high fashion model than I am a pageant girl. But I don't regret doing pageants. I got the experience out of it. I made a ton of friends, connections that I still have to this day. But watching her do that and then exposing myself to the pageant world, I knew that I wanted to be on a runway. That's why I started modeling, was because I wanted to be on a runway. And then, oddly enough, around the time that I watched The Devil Wears Prada for the first time, I watched my first Victoria's Secret fashion show. And that was like a beauty pageant, but tenfold. I was like, wait, I don't even think pageants are going to be it. I think I want to do that, like exactly that. And I was never a shy kid. I danced and I figure skated competitively, growing up as well. So I didn't feel intimidated. I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, can I do that? It was more of that's what I want and that's what I will be doing. And I haven't done that yet, but that's the trajectory that I'm on. And I remember watching the Angels get interviewed backstage, and I think it was Adriana Lima said in her interview, oh, someone watching this is going to be an angel someday. And I sat there and I was like, oh, she's talking about me. Like, I know she is. And maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. I don't know. But I will not be, giving up in modeling in any regard until I find out for sure if, that was me or not. So.
Yeah. And you got signed at 14, correct?
Yes.
That was probably a lot at 14. What was that feeling?
It was actually a feeling of being thrown to the wolves, but in a really positive way. Like if the wolves didn't have sharp teeth and claws, but I felt like I was going off a cliff and landing into uncharted waters. My cousin, the same one that I already mentioned, brought me into her agency just with her to have kind of an informal interview and meet with the people that she was working with. And they ended up liking me and offering me a contract a little bit later, which I signed. And yeah, so I recognize now, looking back, that I felt like I was on top of the world back then. I was like, this is the hardest part, is getting a contract, getting somebody to believe in you, work for you, push you into work, vouch for you. But it's like what, 12? I just turned 26, so holy crap, 12 years ago. Now my mindset is not, I'm on top of the world.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I don't mean that. I don't even mean that in a negative way. It's just growing up and learning, and also like having to, yes, it's nice to have an agent work for you, but you also have to work for yourself. And I think that that's the biggest, like, part of what I meant when I said the mindset shifted is like, you can't just push everything into the hands of who's behind the contract. Like, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to put yourself out there. People can't hire you for a modeling gig. They don't even know that you exist unless they see you. So the more that you can do that, whether it's, you know, if you divide that between, think about it, your agent and yourself, that's twice the exposure that you're getting. So.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. That's literally legitimate regarding like how like modeling works and everything. And I think like the confidence thing regarding modeling can definitely has its ebbs and flows, as I've heard a lot of people talk about modeling, how it brings you down, but it also can bring you up with how it empowers you. What has been like a moment where it's kind of been like a dip regarding like your confidence in modeling, regarding jobs and opportunities and how you felt within your skin? And then like what has been like highs that have made you feel like empowered?
I always come back to imposter syndrome is a big theme. It's a big, I don't want to say a diagnosis. If it is, I diagnosed myself with it after reading about online and Googling, like, why do I feel this way? Is this normal? Do other models feel this way? Do other people in the entertainment industry feel this way? And come to find out, we all do. But I just have to remember who I am, why I started. At the end of the day, I know what I'm capable of. I came into this industry knowing, maybe not knowing, but my cousin did tell me these things as I was talking to her about my interest in getting signed with an agency, about how it's pretty much 10 to 20 no's equals 1 yes. So I did not come in here as young as I was, even as young as I was, thinking that I was going to book every job.
Mm-hmm.
I think that knowing that before I tried modeling and maybe developed the mindset of I'm going to book every job, and that if I don't book a job, there's something fundamentally wrong with me. I think that already knowing how competitive and cutthroat it really is, it like kind of shielded me and armored me for that type of rejection. So I wouldn't say that there's really been, crazy lows. I think one that I can think of was I casted for the lingerie brand Adore Me. That's the closest I think that I've gotten to Victoria's Secret that I'm aware of, unless somebody submitted me for something and just didn't tell me if they said no, which, listen, that's fine. At least they looked at me. That I come back to that too, is like, even if I get rejected from a job, they looked at me. They looked at my portfolio. They looked at, they looked. And at the end of the day, like, that's what this is all about, is being seen.
Yeah.
But I didn't book Adore Me. It was for their New York Fashion Week show, I think in 2023, and I was still very young in 2023, even though I thought that I wasn't. And so that kind of sucked. I was like, oh man. But also, you never know what they're looking for. The industry is becoming, I think, more inclusive and more diverse than ever, which is amazing. But that also means that the cookie cutter model no longer exists. So you don't walk into a casting and everybody has the same measurements, nobody's the same size, the same anything. So there's more of a gap between what casting directors like are looking for, what they might not be looking for. Maybe they're not looking to cast a diverse group of models. Maybe they do want their models to all look the same. So it's kind of a catch-22, within the industry right now, because the knowing what to expect is even, you don't know what to expect. You never knew what to expect, but really you really don't know what to expect. So
For sure. And it's so hard not to take that personally when you get rejected. That's where I was trying to find. Took me a second, but I got there. Do you still feel like there's a bit of like, do you take it personally, or has it gotten, you grown that thicker skin?
I have a thick skin. I bounce back fast. I remind myself when I do take it personally that, like, Adore Me wanted to see me in person. They invited me into that room, into that casting. So obviously I was not what they were looking for that show, but they gave me, like, the opportunity was presented to me. They wanted to see my walk. They wanted to see me in person. So I try to value that more than the rejection. And I think that does have a higher value, than the full opportunity than the rejection.
No, absolutely. It definitely is. Rejection is redirection. And I think it's that having that narrative and that mindset. And I think it's really intimidating for so many young models, especially in the beginning, to start out and they're continuously getting rejected by agency after modeling gig. What piece of advice could you give? If you could give a piece of advice to like a 14-year-old yourself or to other like young models, like what would you give to them if they're continuously getting rejected in the beginning to help give them some hope for the future?
That's such a good question. I know what I want to say. I'm just making sure that it comes out correctly. But I would say that if you want this as a career and you want to give modeling a try and you want to be serious about it, obviously you have to try before anything is set in stone. But if you're willing to take that step, then take the step, but you have to know who you are. Like you cannot, my biggest thing is like you cannot lose sight of who you are. You cannot let this industry take away like your heart. You cannot let it take away the confidence that you've built outside of this industry. You cannot let it take away anything from you. I've used modeling to build upon myself, to better myself, to have experiences that not everybody gets to have unless they're within this industry. So I would say be prepared to hear the word no, but like one no is not the end all be all in this case. Like you can, there's other castings. Everybody has a different, I guess, taste, I would say, in who they want modeling their brand, as far as casting directors and bookers go, agencies as well. So be prepared to hear no. Don't give up, but just don't lose sight of like who you are as a person, because it can be hard. Especially, I remember when I first started doing photo shoots and building my portfolio, like having different makeup on my face, having my hair done differently, having like clothes on that I would never put together for myself outside of a photo shoot, having all of that change, and I mean change dramatically from week to week at such a young age, definitely like messed with my perception of myself a little bit. And this is 2014, so this is before like, I guess, the advent of social media, I'll call it. Like I was told like not to post your headshots on Instagram. Agents aren't going to want you if you're already like in the market, so to speak, even though now we see that is the opposite. The more exposure, the better, right? You never know. People get scouted off of Instagram all the time. Like you never know who's watching. But yeah, just don't lose yourself in the process.
Those are wise words. And we're talking about this idea of being you giving wise words to young people or just people in general who want to be models. Thinking about when you were starting out, that 14-year-old Vanessa, was there a lot of people saying maybe you shouldn't do modeling? Because I know it's kind of a hot topic when it comes to modeling, because the model industry, has had their pros and cons. How was the reaction to people when you said, I'm doing modeling?
So my mom fully supported me. She was like, you want to do this? Let's do it. She was all in. That woman came to every casting call with me, every call time, because until you're 18, you have to have a parent with you legally. So she was at everything with me until I turned 18. And then when I turned 18, I was like, yes, I can do stuff by myself now. But then when I was like 21, 22, I was like, it's like weird not having my mom here. And there'd be like 17-year-old models like casted for the same things as me, like the same runway shows or the same photo shoots, and they'd have their moms with them, and I'd be like, oh, like my mom isn't like the backstage mom anymore. Like do I miss my mom? So I am very grateful that, I had a parent that was all in with me. I am her oldest and I am the only girl, so I think that played a large role, and she is very close with my cousin who modeled, and I think that my cousin definitely talked to my mom and gave her some, comforting words and some advice when I declared that I wanted to be a model. But other than that, I didn't really tell anybody for a long time.
No, I get it.
I didn't. I was in Catholic school. I don't know if I said this already, but I was in Catholic school from kindergarten until the 12th grade. And modeling is controversial in this day and age. It's been controversial since, the dawn of the supermodel in the 90s for a plethora of reasons. But I just felt like an outsider. I was already an outsider at school. I was not like a cool kid by any means, but I didn't really tell anybody at school because I'm like, nobody is going to understand this and nobody is going to be behind me. And I kind of felt like at that time I have support from like who I want support from. So I don't feel the need to like try to convince other kids to like be on my side. Plus we were kids, like I just didn't, I knew at that point, like I cared what my mom thought, I needed help at a young age to be in these rooms with these people. I needed that from my mom, and I didn't really need, like I just said, like kids talking on the playground more than they already did. So I didn't really tell anybody. I remember when I was in the 9th grade, so I was like 15, I had my first boyfriend, and I remember bringing my portfolio book, which I still have a portfolio book. I will never transfer my photos to an iPad or a laptop. I'm like the only
keep
girl.
That physical media, please.
I love physical media.
Yeah,
me
seriously.
too.
Of the one girl in the casting lines with a book instead of an iPad,
Love
which
it.
no shade to the iPad girls,
No
but
shade to the iPad
I'm emotionally
girls.
attached to my book, all right? I like smuggled my book into school to show my boyfriend my headshots. And I didn't even show him at school. I made him walk to a convenience store with me after school, and we sat and like had iced tea, and we like looked at my photos, and then that was it. That was that.
Good. You know what? Good for you for having a
Love
physical
that.
copy and like being able to like flip through and be like, these are mine. Like these are the receipts right here.
And that's all it was back then too. Nobody had iPads at castings. You had to have a book. So now it's like, well, I still want my book. That's how I started.
It feels authentic.
It does.
It's truly designed for you, and it's something that you can also hold and have forever, that you can keep, and then you can show whoever someday being like, you just take the dust off and be like, this is my book. Like, what do you think? Like, this was me back in the day. I was a gorgeous baddie.
Still am.
It's literally your receipts. And I think it's amazing that you have a physical copy. Because if I was a model, I would do the same. I would have a physical copy
I would
too.
have it like these big printed out of myself.
Be framed,
Cardboard
actually.
cutout.
I don't have that, but I do have all the magazines I've been in. I do have physical
as you
copies
should.
of the magazines. And if I don't have the magazine, I have like the tear sheets from it printed out with me, just because I feel like I need that. Like that's what I wanted. When I started, I had these dreams aside from Victoria's Secret. After I saw that and I got signed, I was like, I want to be in the magazines. I want to be, I want to do like industry plant stuff. If I'm not the guest on the show, like I want to be a seat filler. I want to be around people who are doing the things that I want to do. So when I see myself, I'm like, oh man, like I did that. Like that's what I wanted and I did it.
Yes,
I will
and
absolutely keep that.
Younger Vanessa would be so happy.
Yes.
It's like healing that inner child, for sure.
Yeah, 14-year-old Vanessa, I'm sure, would be very proud of how far
She's
you
in her
came
Devil
today.
Wear Prada era.
And you're still in, like, you still have so much to go. I'm
Yes,
sure.
you just
And
I haven't done
It's just
Victoria's
begun.
Secret yet.
And you will. Oh, you will.
Oh, you will.
You will.
So let's talk about Victoria's Secret. When do you know, like, when they have, like, auditions for maybe runway or to be, like, a model or to be, like, an ambassador? Like, what's the scoop? Like, how do you do this?
I've done my fair amount of research. Listen, make no mistake about it. I've done my research. The show is usually before they took their hiatus, which I think was in 2019. I think their last show prior to the hiatus was in 2018. And they used to do it in a different city every year. I remember New York. I remember Paris. I remember Shanghai. London, I think. Like, they've been all over the world. And then since they came back the last 2 years, the show has been in New York, and it's been in October,
Yeah, I
I
think so.
believe. Don't quote me on that, Victoria's
We'll fact
Secret, if
check.
you're
We'll
listening
fact
to
check.
this. But
I think you're
that's
right.
what I think. I have never been to a casting. I don't know. I know the castings are in the summer before the show. I want to say July or August. And then I know that most of the models, from what I've seen on social media and heard through the grapevine of the industry, though I don't know any Victoria's Secret models personally, that there's like the training sessions and the rehearsals and really getting show ready between September and whether it's October or November, whenever the show is. So me being 5'6.5", I've never had an agent like send me to the casting. I've never been requested at a casting. So I don't know the date. I don't know the location. I don't know if I showed up with my comp card and my book, if they'd even, want to see me. There's a chance that they would, because again, like if they're not asking my agency for me and my agency isn't submitting me to them, then they don't know that I exist.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I stand on that. If, I would love to go to the casting. I think that me being seen by them and me being in the room, and even though I'm on the short side for a runway model, I think that's the only thing that's like holding me back from being submitted to the casting is my height, which I understand. But again, we are
always evolving.
We're evolving.
Yeah.
This is the most inclusive. I've seen the industry in the past 12 years. Like this is how far we've come. And my stance has always been, regardless of height, size, look, ethnicity, anything, like if you can walk and you can wear the clothes, and most importantly, you can sell the viewers the clothes, which is hard when it's bras and underwear.
Yeah.
I don't see why we're being, as picky and as standardized as we still are,
I agree. That's a great take. I feel like even though the modeling industry, from my knowledge, and I'm sure yours too, like has progressed, but I think there's still a lot of setbacks.
There is.
And I think there's still a lot of restrictions, and regarding not only just by like petite models, so maybe like you, for example, and then also for, plus size, curve, like all these different backgrounds and for different races and ethnicities as well. It's still very restrictive. When do you think there may be like a burst of like maybe being more positive and more progressive towards different backgrounds? What's your take on that?
My take is that when casting calls are either posted online or sent out to agencies, and then agencies respond with, the models that fit the requirements, like there's requirements. There's usually a height requirement, a size requirement. Sometimes there's a hair requirement, whether it be a certain type of curl, a certain length. Whatever it may be, there's always requirements. I've yet to see a casting call that just says females, ages, whatever. And even then, it's still females and it's still ages. There's never like just a casting call. I think that no restriction is kind of what we're moving towards as an industry. I think that that's what a lot of models are hoping for, is that just all of the guidelines to be dropped. Because again, the guidelines should be, as far as I'm concerned, if a model can make you buy what they're wearing, then why wouldn't you be allowed to model that, right?
Absolutely.
And again, especially with bras and underwear, right?
Exactly. No, for sure.
So, I don't know. I am optimistic. I'm a radical optimist, just like by nature. But I'm optimistic that there will come a day where it's an open casting call, or not even an open casting call. Go ahead, request people that are signed to agencies, and not have a street casting. I feel like that's valid, because I feel like there does need to be a level of professionalism in order to sell a product to an audience, especially as big as Victoria's Secret's audience. So go ahead and request from the agencies, but I think that just let people walk. Also, nobody wants to be on set with a model or, at work, in an office, in a cubicle with anybody who's horrible to be around.
Real.
No matter what you look like, nobody wants to be on set with the person who is just not good energy, not a good attitude, doesn't really want to be there, Their agent talked them into taking the job because it's publicity for the agency, whatever it may be. So I think that just talking to people, seeing people in real life versus in a photograph, not reducing people to what their measurements are, height included on a comp card or on an agency profile, I think would fill in the gaps of what we're missing right now as far as being diverse and inclusive.
I second that.
So you talk about Victoria's Secret as being
Yes.
like, oh, I would love that.
Would
Is that
love.
like that's the peak for you, or is there other
That's the peak.
projects or companies or businesses that you're like, I would also love to work with in the future?
I would love to work with, on the other end of the spectrum, Rick Owens. I wear his stuff. I think his stuff is so cool. I think that his attitude, I kind of see myself in to a degree. I've seen interviews with him. He just did an interview, I think it was in Paris, with Dazed Magazine, and it was posted on either Instagram or TikTok or both. And I watched like all this. I kept sliding down to see the next like bit of it. And I was like, this is a real person. And I think that when I say real person, I mean candid, honest, a little rough around the edges, raw. I pride myself on coming across that way. Whether you think I do or don't, I don't really care. I feel like in this industry, at least, I do. And so I feel like I would align with him. You know, if I got to meet him and walk for him, there'd be something there. There'd be a business opportunity that would be mutually beneficial.
Or
So.
manifesting
Manifesting for you. And you know what? Maybe you should just reach out to them. You know, I was going to say this before, even for Victoria's Secret. I would say, because my mom is always like, I was just talking with her yesterday. She's like, cold call, like, you know, make sure that you continuously, with internships and like other things too, cold call your agent, or just be like, hey, I really want to get like scouted and to be in this audition for Victoria's Secret, or even for these different like brands, like reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm a model. I love your stuff. I think I would be a great asset and a great face for, you know, your brand, that I would love to model your clothes, accessories, etc. What do you think? You know,
Right.
like, I think that like just putting yourself out there is so important. And I think you should totally do it, because what do you have to
Absolutely.
lose?
I have nothing to lose. The worst they can say is no. And again, the word no
Exactly.
in this industry, in this context, does not, I already know that could be coming. I'm like mentally prepared for that to a degree. But my thing, and trust me, I've thought of all of that. I'm with you 110%. My thing is, I need to find the email address. I need to find the phone
me the
number.
email, please.
Because believe me, I've sent DMs. Yeah, I've sent DMs. You know, every time I have an opportunity to style myself for a photo shoot, I've shot Rick Owen stuff. I've shot Victoria's Secret stuff. I have no problem walking around in my underwear. Like, trust me. So it's just a matter of finding the email, finding the phone number. They did, I don't even know if I should say this, but they did recently release a documentary about like the Angels backstage, and the current creative director, Adam Salman, who I love his energy. Like, even just watching it on my laptop, I was like, this guy knows what he's doing. Like, this is somebody that I would want to work with. So even aside from just the broadness of, oh, Victoria's Secret, like I want to model for them, knowing that this is the creative director and this is who's behind the scenes, that made me want it even more. And then at the end of the documentary, they made the mistake of putting not the mistake, but maybe with people like me watching, they'd consider it a mistake. Everybody, like, obviously got credited who worked on the documentary. So what did I do was I was up till 1 a.m, the night that it came out, going on everybody's website, looking at their work. I think I found 3 emails.
Boom.
Unfortunately, I think they were emails of people who directed the film, specifically not the fashion show, but they are sitting in my, you know, favorites folder just in case, you know.
Well, you never know. 'Cause
I
closed-
do send some stuff over.
As you should. Well, closed mouths don't get fed. So, you know, you've
Exactly.
got to. You got
Exactly.
to. Okay, so Victoria's Secret, Rick Owens, we're going to get you there.
Okay.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
It is.
Okay, I want to shift, because we talked a lot about modeling, and you're killing the game. I want to shift to writing, because I know
Okay.
you are a big writer.
Yes.
Speak on it.
I was a fashion design major at Maine College of Art. I got rejected from FIT, and so I ended up at Maine College of Art. And I thought I wanted to be a designer. I was already modeling for, I was 18, so 5 years, 14 to 18. And I just loved clothes, and I mentioned that I was in Catholic school, so I think a big part of me wanting to be a designer was that I had to put on a plaid uniform every day, and I didn't want to do that. And for the first, you know, ages 4 to 18, that's what I got up and wore every day, and I hated it. Let me tell you, if there was like an Olympics for getting dress coded, it was me. Whether it was, you can't wear Doc Martens to school, you can't pull your knee socks over your knees in high school, you can't roll your skirt to make it a mini skirt, you have to have your shirt tucked in, you can't have your nails painted, why do you have wings on your eyeliner, all that. Like, I remember I was late to school one day, and it's because I couldn't get my eyeliner wings even.
Valid.
And now I do it in 5 minutes. I was learning. And I wrote on my late slip, reason for being late was I couldn't get my eyeliner even.
I'm obsessed with that.
They did not like that. They did not like that at all. But it made me who I am, because I thought that I wanted to design clothes for everybody. Not even just limited to little girls who hated their school uniforms that they had to wear every day, with absolutely no leniency to make it their own and express themselves even a little bit. But when I went to Maine College of Art, one of my first like intro to sewing classes, we had this assignment, and this is like engraved into my brain. They gave us a piece of paper, not a piece of fabric, a piece of paper, like an 8x10, like print 8x11, whatever the printer paper size is, that with a spiral on it with like stitch marks. And the assignment was you have to sew on an industry sewing machine, not by hand, like the whole spiral, like on the stitch
paper?
marks. Yep, on the paper.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
And I was over caffeinated in the sewing room. I don't even know what time it was when I was just kind of like, all right, my paper is ripped. I don't have another copy. And this is not a spiral, but this is what I have to turn in. I was already sewing a little bit. I had a sewing machine before I went to college. Like, I was fine making, like, you know, little shirts and things for me to wear. Like, I knew what size I was. That's easy enough. But I think that the technical aspect really threw me for a loop when it became an assignment. I threw in the towel and decided that I wanted to wear the clothes instead and not make them. I liked modeling them, and that was enough self-expression for me. That did the job. So I took up a minor in creative writing, but then it really started doing a lot for me emotionally at the time, and like to the point where I quit therapy. I had 2 therapists. I stopped going to both of them because I was writing about, you know, the things aside from modeling that I was just dealing with. And at Maine College of Art, it turns out they didn't offer a major in creative writing. It would have just had to be a minor, and I would have had to stay in fashion design. And unfortunately for me, there was nothing else I had an interest in.
And you said, I'm not sewing any more pieces of paper. I gotta get out of here.
Like, I
need to
can't
go.
sew in
Got
a
to
circle.
get out.
That's it. I could draw, but I didn't have an interest in being a fine arts major. I could not paint. Please don't ask me to paint anything ever. You know, I gave painting a fair chance in high school. I knew I didn't want to be a painter. So I applied to FIT again.
Love it.
And I thought that I could do like fashion writing, fashion business writing, fashion marketing, something like that. I also submitted a fashion design portfolio too. I think I might have actually submitted for fashion design again. I forget. But I think I felt that if I applied to fashion design and got in, and I knew that I had already gotten the technical classes out of the way, maybe I wouldn't come to the city and have to sew circles anymore.
Right.
And then I could kind of segue myself into writing or whatever. But I did not get in. And I remember calling admissions, and because see, this is the kind of person I am. Like, I called admissions and I asked them why. Is there something that, you know, I missed the mark with my portfolio? Like, is there a way that you can waitlist me? Can you just tell me like what it is with me? Like, clearly I want to go here. And they just thought that, honestly, I'm pretty sure they said that my portfolio is too much in black and white and didn't showcase enough color, which, okay, valid. I didn't like that answer, so I applied to the new school. And I applied for creative writing. And when I applied for creative writing, I sent them my portfolio of things I was writing at Maine College of Art, and I got in to the honors program. So then I was kind of like, I'm running down the wrong street. Like, this is obviously not what I want to do. I'm trying to make it so that it's something I want to do. And you're never gonna get far, like trying to make yourself do something that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I'm a writer now.
Yep.
And I love it.
Fantastic. That's what matters. And that's really what we're here to do. We're helping people that come on our podcast and even our audience feel comfortable and feel like they need to navigate and figure out what they want to do. And that's by trying different things that work for them and putting yourself out there as you do a lot, which I think is fantastic. And I think that's extremely important to do, and do it with grace. And you do. And I think that's a beautiful thing as well. And now, how has it been being a writer, and what are you hoping to achieve now?
So I have never like openly talked about this with anybody besides a therapist. Those 2 that I previously mentioned that I no longer talk to about anything. Yes, I've never really openly talked about this, but I do write about it. So my peers, professors, you know, academics, anybody involved in my school and my writing program knows what happened to me because they've read my work, they've workshopped my work. But I got sexually assaulted when I was 19. So that was my sophomore year at Maine College of Art. And that was my first time, like, I felt like I had hit rock bottom. Therapy wasn't working. That's why I stopped going. And I just started writing about it. I didn't know who I was supposed to talk to if it wasn't a therapist. Like I just said, therapy just wasn't, for me, a venue that was conducive in helping me process what had happened to me. So I started writing about it. And to my shock, people were very... I wasn't even looking for validation. I was just looking for people to be receptive and to see if what I was writing had a place in the world of writing outside of me treating it like a diary and a way to process my own emotions, which is still valid, but I think that I felt like I needed academic validation in order to go all in and take up a minor in it, if that makes sense. Right. But yeah, people in my writing classes at Maine College of Art really liked what I had to say, which sounds so weird because of the topic, but they did. They read my work and they critiqued my work fairly in workshops, and I became comfortable reading it out loud and in a way talking about it outside of therapy, because now I was talking about my work on this sensitive subject with my peers and my professors. So yeah, and then when I got into the new school, that was the portfolio that I gave them. And when I got into the honors program, I was like, I do have a story that is worth telling regardless of the nature of it. Like, there shouldn't be shame attached. There shouldn't be hesitation in speaking out about things that aren't just like sunshine and rainbows. I think that I was nervous because on social media, it looks like I'm living the life. It's modeling. That's what I post about online. And what I was dealing with internally was so drastically different, even though I was still on set all the time. And I was still driving to New York for early call times from Maine in between my classes. So yeah, that's what my thesis ended up being about, that I needed to write to graduate my undergrad. That's what I read aloud at my, senior year reading before I graduated my undergrad. And that is what my advisor and a couple of my professors have really encouraged me to keep writing and make my first book.
Yes.
Congratulations.
That
That's
will
incredible.
hopefully be out by the end of this year. That's a bit of a optimistic deadline, but I really that's what I want. That's what I want it to be, is out by the end of the year. I've been writing it for 3 years. I have pieces of it that I wrote before the last 3 years because they're part of my portfolio, all kind of conglomerated into a manuscript is what we're calling it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's been a long time coming, and it has definitely helped me like become a better person, a more confident person, just like with everything and all sides of the spectrum. So
yeah, no, for sure. I'm so sorry that happened to you. At the same time though, it's like amazing how you're able to be that voice for so many.
I hope that I told myself that I needed to do something productive with what happened to me, just because I refuse to just like sit there and take it and just have to like have this weighing on me. I kind of came to terms with it pretty quickly, that it was something that I was going to have to deal with and think about for a long time. It's been 7 years. I'm still thinking about it, but in a different light. And if one person reads this book when it comes out and, one teenage girl runs away from somebody that they shouldn't be with or has a weird feeling about or isn't treating them right and is, just bad news, then I've done my job and I've kept my promise to myself, because I didn't have any perspective. I didn't have anything to read. I didn't know anybody who went through what I went through when I was going through it. So not that what I'm writing should be treated as a Bible or like a how-to guide on how to handle trauma, but I do want to offer real world, real life, unfiltered experience and perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that you found that tool of writing. I believe when we go through hard things, art is always the way to figure out when we can't put it into, like talking to a therapist or sharing it to someone. I feel like a form of writing or just a form, any artistic form, is really an amazing route to go to.
Yes, and not sewing in circles.
No,
might I add, that
yes.
did not. That did not.
But
help
if you
anything.
need to sew in the circles, you better sew in those circles.
Yes.
But
yes.
not for everyone.
And it's cool now that like the fact that like you have this book, you share your story. And as we were kind of even talking about even before the podcast, how there's such a saturation in so many different industries and so many different topics and different things. You're making your own topic through this, and you're being that voice, and you're sharing it in your own perspective. And this happens to so many people. It does. It happens to so many people of all different backgrounds, and now you're here sharing it, and you're bringing a light to people through what you went through and what so many people are going through today. And I want to thank you for it. And
applaud
Thank you guys.
And for this, you have courage and strength, and it's not easy to do. And I give you a ton of credit for doing it.
Thank
I really
you.
do.
I already, the worst part about it was it happening. So if I can shed some semblance of light, like I said, and offer a unique perspective, and it's unique because it's my own, I will do that. I do also want to say that my book is still about modeling. That's still a heavy theme, and it's a heavy theme because I thought that I wasn't going to be able to model anymore. I thought that if anybody in the industry found out that I went through this, I was not going to book work, that I was going to kind of be a liability on set. Oh, she's not going to want to, share a changing room with other models. She's not going to want to shoot anything that isn't full top to bottom clothing. She's not going to be able to do swimmer anywhere. All of these things. But the more I thought about them, I was like, but I still do want to do that. You can absolutely have control over your own body and your own desires when it's you controlling your own body and your own desires. So once I got to the point in the extremely nonlinear healing process, doesn't really feel like healing, but that's what they call it, where I could separate those two things and realize for myself that that one thing that's not going to define the rest of my career, that was a big turning point for me. So that will be in the book when it comes out.
I cannot wait to read. I'm actually really excited.
I'm getting this book as soon as it's published.
I'm at wherever it's going to be sold, front row. Let me in, please, let me in.
Hopefully.
I'm buying this book ASAP.
Or pre-ordering. I'm going to get it.
Yeah,
I'm going to be ready.
I hope that it is a New York Times bestseller.
Oh,
I would love
it's going to be.
a book deal. Outside of Rick Owens and Victoria's Secret, I would love a New York Times bestseller. I would love a book deal. I would love a book tour. I would love to do a book signing. I would, I want to do everything.
I love that. I want to talk more about your writing because I was stalking the Substack. And you have
my Substack.
Yes, loved it. And there's one piece I want to talk about. And you say, I believe in authenticity and the beauty of vulnerability. These have been drained from what should be human default to dying art forms. Can you speak about that? Because I read that, I said, whoa. That was...
I love being quoted.
Yes. I was just yes, that is beautiful. Can you speak about that? Or just talk about more writing in terms of the Substack?
I wrote it. I'll speak on it all day long. What I meant there was that we are in an age, all of us, models, humans, now AIs, everything, everybody. I feel like nothing is real. Being a real person is so hard to come by. And that's why Victoria's Secret's creative director stands out to me, Adam Selman. That's why Rick Owens stands out to me. That's why I stand out to myself. Because, and this is I don't mean, this could come off shady, and I don't mean it to come off shady. This is not a direct at anybody. But editing tools are so readily available, to say the least. You can edit with AI now. I had to learn Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator for the classes I took at Maine College of Art. Those are difficult platforms to learn how to edit and edit well on. Social media, I was savvy on in 2018, 2019 when I was at that school. Not 2014, but I knew how to use Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and everything then. And I still had trouble learning Photoshop and Illustrator. So for modeling, to my knowledge, that Photoshop was kind of the go-to, the industry platform for retouching the final edits of photos that you'd see in magazines, you'd see in campaigns, even just down to what your agents have in portfolios to submit to castings, what you have in your portfolio. So now, though, you can just edit with AI. There was a trend that went around near Halloween where you could just it's that would, like, I never partook in any of that because to me it's like, that's not me. It's bad enough that I've been photoshopped since I was 14. You know, unfortunately, that is one of the downside perception warping parts of modeling, but it comes with the industry. You know that that's going to happen, like, pretty early on if you don't know before you start. Your first photo shoot, you get these photos back and you're like, whoa, that's what I look like? And it is. It's what you look like on your best day in the best lighting with the best hair and makeup and the best clothes. So my point is that now people can just do that without even getting out of bed. And I feel like while, yes, there's always, you know, pros and cons to everything, I feel like I'm a pretty, like, even person. You know, I'm not, that's just what my mindset is. Like, there has to be some good in that. I think that this specific thing, like, does do more harm than good. I've never done any dating apps. I was on Raya. That's it. I'm no longer on Raya. But I can't even imagine, like, the level of catfishing that must go on. I can't imagine the level of catfishing that even goes on with models and agents when you go to a casting or a go-see at an agency and you don't look like your photos. If you got your portfolio photos back and you re-edited them over what a photographer already did for you. Because now that can be done. In 2014, like, I didn't even want to re-edit these photos. I was already, like, kind of disturbed that, like, I don't look like this at school, but I look like this when I'm at work, you know? So it's like I said, there's got to be some good in there somewhere. There has to be, but I haven't seen it yet. And it's really scary on all levels. And we also saw a surge in what they called the clean girl aesthetic. I was always against that. I just said I'm not really, you know, I'm a pretty even-minded person, open-minded person, but I was very anti-clean girl because I feel like you're putting on makeup to make it look like you don't have makeup on. There's a time and a place for that. But if I'm going to spend an hour doing my makeup, you're going to know I have makeup on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing with kitten heels. If I'm walking around in heels, I better be 6'1" in my heels.
They're going to be 6 inches.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, this is what people, I feel like, have just gotten afraid to, like, push their creativity, push what they want to do. Because every time you open up your phone and go on social media, less and less of it is real people doing the things that they genuinely want to do, how they genuinely want to dress, you know? So yeah, I wrote that on my Substack. I absolutely did. Authenticity is a dying art, and it is artful to be yourself. Like, nobody else can do that for you. That sounds so cliche, you know, but it's true. Nobody else can do that. And there is an artfulness and a beauty in being vulnerable, because nobody can be vulnerable for you either. I'm going to sit here for the rest of my life and think about what happened when I was 19. So if I want to do something about that outside of my own head, then yeah, I'm going to write about it. And yeah, that's vulnerable, and yeah, that's scary, and it might not be well received, and people might say X, Y, and Z about it, but people say X, Y, and Z about everything. So I have no issue with, you know, putting myself out there. And I feel like people, where that quote came from is that just everybody is afraid to just put themselves out there.
Yeah. They are. And it's crazy. It's a dying breed, the lack of being genuine and being authentic. It does. But you know what? They're still here. It may be endangered, but it's not extinct. And you're still
right.
You're here,
Exactly.
and you are being genuine and true to yourself. And there is a lack
loud about it.
As you should.
And
As you
and it's
should.
not being controlled by coming from you through digital tools and anything. This is solely coming from you and what you truly think about how we are, whether how we dress, how we act, what are current trends. Like, yeah, I agree. The clean girl, the kitten heels. It's just a way, in a sense, these trends to hide ourselves, in a sense, to limit. Whereas, yeah, like, I got a full beat on, I'm representing that. The lack of just, like, being yourself and doing things for you and having that sense of originality is going away. And a lot of that is through AI and through social media and through these, like, micro trends and stuff like that. Do you have any concerns in the future of AI with what you're going into, not only with modeling, because I know modeling with AI is getting now crazy and out of hand, but also even with creative writing and that too? Yeah.
Yes. AI is taking over everything.
Are you worried about your job positions at all?
I'm
Or?
worried about like the state of the world.
Yeah.
The thing
For
with
real.
the job positions is like I'm worried about when I've sent my resume out with my thesis on my education and the experience that I do have, writing to, like I just said, writing jobs within the industry. AI is sorting through the job applications. I genuinely think that it would be much easier for myself and people of this generation, current college students and recent college grads and grad students like myself, to land roles if real people were reading the resumes. I've even thought about, damn, I'll read resumes. I'm qualified for that,
Put me
right?
in. Put me in, coach. I'm ready.
Please. I'll sit there and do it. So it is. It's concerning all around.
Absolutely.
It really is.
It is. But you know what? Is if you're your own, like if you're just doing it yourself, like freelancing, like still as modeling and still getting those jobs. And I think there is an anti-movement, I would say, even right now from what I've seen of AI with the modeling industry, because all of the models now are fed up being like, hey, what about us? Like, we're all here. We want to model. Why is AI taking our spots?
Right.
When we want to do this. These are our jobs. And even with creative writing, because that's always a concern too, because people use AI to write everything now, right? Like so many things, and emails, like anything like is done through AI. Even how they recruit and check now job applications
Exactly.
is through AI. And it's like, it's really scary to see how much it is going to dominate and take over. And I don't think it's even at its full potential yet.
No, which
So
is
it's
so
like,
scary.
but you know what? You're going to pave your way.
I'm
yes.
trying to pave a way with like my nails are like really in there digging up this dirt to pave my way. But I do want to say that going back to modeling in AI, of course, using AI models, like brands are doing that because it saves money. And obviously an AI can sell you clothes. It's perfect. It's not a human. But that's not what it's going to look like on a real human. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And about the writing, my biggest flex is like I got into school on a portfolio that I wrote myself about an unfortunate circumstance in my life. My whole book I wrote about myself, by myself, about a whole range of, circumstances in my life. Kids are struggling to graduate with ChatGPT writing their essays right now. Like that is so scary to me. Because if you're not like the whole point of writing is to like tell your story, to write your book. If a computer is doing that, I don't even know what else to say about that. It's dystopian is what it is.
Absolutely. We've made a lot of good points. Well, you've made a lot of
I
amazing
tried.
points to
Thank
say.
you.
If you could leave people with one thing, or just one thing you hope, what would you say to people regarding creative writing, modeling, anything in the arts realm, something that you've done? What would you leave people with?
What's a piece of advice that you would give to our audience on the Cubicle podcast and beyond, even your younger 14-year-old self and, starting all out into your professional career? Like, what's your piece of advice?
I already said this today, but I'm going to say it again. Never forget who you are. You know who you are. You know who you are better than anybody, better than any casting director who doesn't like the way you look, better than any professor or editor who has a problem with something that you wrote. Like you know who you are. And at the end of the day, like that is your secret weapon. That's what you bring to the table. So bring it to the table.
Preach. Well, thank you so much for joining us here in the
Thank
Cubicle.
you guys.
This concludes this episode of the Cubicle podcast, brought to you by JC Moss and I, your co-host, and beautiful Vanessa
you
Carlson.
so much.
Make sure you
who
keep up
shared-
with her and her book update. You gotta be checking on that.
Exactly. Check out the book and stay tuned for our next episode and beyond, where you hear more about our beautiful people on our episode. We're all set in the Cubicle. And would you like to say something else, Vanessa?
I was going to say, tentatively right now, the book is called Formative Experiences. That could change, but it's changed enough already. So I'm pretty confident that's going to be what it's called.
Don't worry.
That's all
We'll
I
be
wanted to
promoting.
say.
We'll be promoting it on this.
We're
Once it comes
promoting
out,
on the Cubicle.
You know it.
We love to share the craft and the work of everybody.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye, interns and associates.